So good morning, good evening. My name is Kelly Waga. I'm the knowledge management expert at RCMAD. This being our third week uh, under mapping, monitoring habitat loss as our third module. I hope you've had a very great excursion in terms of what has been shared, discussed, and also your assignment. So today I'll be taking you through our second series or second segment under module 3. My colleague yesterday took you through the first section, and under our course outline, we'll be looking at key conservation scope. That is one of the subtopic. Importance of biodiversity in relation to conservation, global conservation challenges, conservation pillars, international organizations leading in conservation, and conservation barriers, strategic actions, and conservation initiatives. The term conservation actually was coined by okay, so the term conservation was actually coined by one Gifford Pinchot. This is actually a chief forester in the United States and also a former governor, 28th governor of Pennsylvania. And in terms of what it is, what it entails, it's about sustainability and preservation of the environment and ecosystem for future generation, and how we sustainably use and manage it for also the future generation. So we have discussed biodiversity hotspots in the previous sessions, and now we examine the factors that drive our efforts to preserve these hotspots, commonly referred to as conservation. Now, like I've also said, conservation is both a practice and also a philosophy, and that proper use and preservation. So proper use and preservation of our environment is really key in terms of making sure that the future generation will actually benefit from, our conservation efforts. There are some key conservation scope. One includes habitat protection. Habitat protection in the sense that, it starts with you as an individual, as a family, as a community. What are you doing to actually protect our habitats? You might be having your own kitchen garden at home. Others have tracts of land. And conservation actually starts from that point of view. And you might have planted flowers in your compound. You might have planted some fruits. You have an orchard, that is a fruit farm, where, we have bees that help in pollination and also distributing some of these nectars that help in, biodiversity and also growth in terms of, conservation and habitat protection. We have endangered species recovery. We have quite a number of initiatives that probably have been done by nations, governments, and even conservationists and some experts towards making sure that we recover these endangered species. And conservation in both practice, just like I've said, and philosophy, is actually a formalized concept with policy and practice that, like I said, was crafted and brought into the world by Gifford Pinchot in the early 1990s. And while Theodore Roosevelt, this was actually a former president of the United States during his time, established a conservation president during the same period, just to make sure that, people live in harmony with nature and also consider conservation for future generation. So it's an ethical framework which is rooted in the respect of the natural world, and also advocating for stewardship rather than viewing nature merely as a source or other resource to be exploited. So as you exploit nature, are you also looking at the future generation? What will they have maybe after you've also used what has also benefited you? So it needs to look at what we call future benefits for future generations. And this, by and large, like touching still on the key conservation scope, um, we look at pollution reduction. How do you manage your waste? How do you dispose your waste so that we do what we call pollution reduction? So pollution is not only caused by the major industries. We as individuals also cause a lot of pollution. And then sustainable resource management. How can you balance between, the use of our natural resources vis-a-vis our needs, and also what, will also go into the future generation? So these are the questions that are very key, that are very pertinent as we do our conservation. Moving forward to biodiversity importance. Why is biodiversity important in our lives? Why do we talk about biodiversity, conservation this and conservation that? One is because of food. We survive on food. So food security is critical. And pollinators ensure that we have stable food production. Just like I've mentioned, the bees. The bees are very vital. That flower that you've planted in your garden, be it a kitchen garden, be it a large tract of land, that is very, very critical. For medicinal purposes, we have antibiotics, immunosuppressants that come from microorganisms. We have the enzyme inhibitors that come from the snake. We even have, anti-cancer drugs that also come from, our natural ecosystem. Climate regulation on wetlands as carbon sinks. We have, these wetlands, absorbing and storing large amounts of carbon in waterlogged soils and peat. And this actually prevents them from entering the atmosphere through the greenhouse gases. We have genetic diversity, species adapting to long-term survival for future generation. Moving on, there's triple planetary crisis that drives conservation efforts. One being biodiversity loss, the next one being climate change and pervasive pollution. These actually have great impact on human beings in terms of their well-being and, society stability. So when we miss out on this, there are high risks of, human well-being and societal stability. And we also have biodiversity extinction risk, as well as local successes which exist, but we fail to meet the global targets. As we move on, there are key challenges, key global challenges in conservation. Some of these terms probably are what I've also used just now: biodiversity loss, climate change, we have deforestation and land degradation, ocean health decline, as well as pollution. This holistic view of the triple planetary crisis underscores that these challenges are not isolated, but profoundly interconnected. So we have biodiversity loss being connected to climate change. When we talk about high temperature leads to, migration. And in the long run, it will lead to extinction of, biodiversity. And so climate change is a significant driver of biodiversity loss. As I've mentioned, it leads to species migration, diseases increase, as well as mass mortality of the bio. So conversely, nature with its rich biodiversity is a key tool in combating rising global temperatures as ecosystems like forests and peatlands absorb carbon emissions. Moving on, we have the, pillars of conservation efforts. One being habitat protection and restoration, sustainable resource management, policy, advocacy and governance, science-driven approaches, as well as participatory engagement with local and indigenous communities. Here, key highlight here is the fact that we need to include people. We need to engage the community because it's them that these, biodiversity laws actually affects the most. They are the ones who also have what it takes to make sure that we don't have biodiversity loss, or rather we halt biodiversity loss. Government comes into play much later after what you've done probably as a household comes into being. So the government coming into play with policies and advocacy programs that actually drive conservation efforts that have already been made by the community. So that is when they come in with these policies and frameworks to help, but it must start with you. So the global conservation efforts stems from the profound and acceleration, or rather accelerating impacts that of human activities and the planet's life support system, and threatening not only biodiversity, but also human well-being and societal stability. By and large, the global conservation movement employs a multifaceted array of strategies. So we have so many programs, we have so many initiatives that must be employed if we really want to approach this issue of conservation at a global scale. So it's essential to examine the interdependencies and ranking the urgency of addressing critical ecological tipping points. By and large, just like I've also said, is that it's very critical that we involve the community in conservation. And when you involve the community, then it will be easy for us to do conservation. Moving on, we have quite a number of organizations that involve in conservation. One of them is the IUCN, that is the International Union for Conservation of Nature. And they normally deal in policies and actions for the people. And with them, it's still in terms of, how people live harmoniously with nature. Then we have the Nature Conservancy, that is the TNC, that, advocates for conserving of land, waters, in which life depends on. And in these, again, we have people thriving with nature. And we also have Conservation International that protects the nature and people so that we have food and fresh water. And then we have the Worldwide Fund for Nature. Those are just but a few of those organizations that do that. And then as we move on, there's the system thinking approach of, climate change drives biodiversity loss and ecosystem mitigate climate impacts, as well as ocean warming disruptions for food chain and introduces invasive species, deforestation, accelerates global warming. So these are things that should be at the back of your mind, even as we think of conservation, both at the local and the global level. So call to action in terms of prioritizing projects which help to restore biodiversity, to attract broader support and drive transformative change with regards to conservation. Moving forward, we have barriers to conservation. I'll just mention a few. That is financial constraints, political complexities, as well as weak governance. And these actually implicate by implicate human beings, or rather the well-being of humans through, reduced scalability of conservation programs, misalignment between global goals and local implementation, as well as erosion of stakeholders' trust and engagement. Some of the strategic actions that we can also consider are nature-based solutions in terms of agroforestation, reforestation, looking at the ocean health. Scaled investment is also a proven strategy. Strengthening governance framework in terms of policies, looking at the empowered local action that will also bring about economic empowerment, and enhancing public engagement through the IPLCs. Some of the initiatives that probably some of these organizations have been involved in, one is the Arabian Oryx recovery by the IUCN. We have the Bone Challenge by IUCN, green turtle nesting season success, as well as mangrove restoration project and community managed protected areas. There's one that also happened probably some times ago in the beginning of this year that concerned some of these 17 mountain bongos that were repatriated from the United States to Kenya. So I need you guys to also go and follow up on this. As I wind up, I would like also to say that we have some funding mechanisms from the Global Environmental Facility. They offer loans, they offer grants for conservation. We also have the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework Funds. We have the Green Climate Fund, as well as Biofin. And conservation is something that needs a cross-sectoral collaboration. Without strategic partnership, then we fail. So as I conclude, probably I would say that conservation foundations must actually evolve through innovation, governance, and inclusion. Inclusion, especially for the IPLCs, because these are people on the ground who know about, the conservation challenges. So I would like to probably stop there and thank each and every one of you as I invite the next presenter to take you through the next session. We'll have Q&A at the end of all these presentations. So thank you so much and continue to engage.
Welcome back to the next session on this. So my name is Josephat Kashoki. I'm an ecologist. So like my previous speaker has talked about the conservation, the foundation of conservation. So we gave a scenario of what how you plan maybe for maybe a garden, a kitchen garden, or maybe a forest a plantation. So what we want to do in this is trying to look at how do we go about maybe prioritizing an area that we think would be the most appropriate one for, in this case, conservation. So we need to, in essence, when we're doing conservation, it has to be informed by some elements. Yeah. So the area that you want to undertake, maybe assuming it's a restoration, assuming it's setting up a conservation area or a conservancy or a local managed area for community in marine ecosystem. So how do you come up with setting that? Because you see the ecosystem is large, containing different aspects of biodiversity. So you don't go setting up conservation in all the areas. So you have to choose one. But when you're choosing this one area, you have to follow some procedures so that once you have this one in play, then you get the best out of that. So what we are saying is, when we're talking about conservation, it's not just about maybe pinpointing an area and saying, let's set up a conservation in this part. You need to know that conservation is complex. Why? Because we are saying it's interrelated with human activities or the livelihood that the community derive from that ecosystem. So we need to understand that the conservation bit of it is being driven by different aspects or interlinked aspects that need to be looked into with care, so that at least once you already agree that this area is set up for maybe conservation of rhinos, conservation of maybe wild beasts, turtles, that it will not compromise with what the community drive from that area. So if they continue, or if they have to continue driving resources from that, then it has to be done in a way that is sustainable and which in line with the conservation aspect of it. So when we setting the prioritization, we seek to identify where, how, and what, and when we should act fast to conserve biodiversity effectively. So the assumption is we can't do everything at once. So we have to be systematic in this. So when we say we want to do prioritization, we are prioritizing because if the biodiversity is being lost, and when the lost, it's irreversible. So when this one is or takes the rate too high, and you are not able to arrest maybe the cause of that loss, then it becomes very difficult for you to reverse the whole of that aspect. Again, we're talking about prioritizing. Why? Because of maybe the resources that are allocated to maybe a conservation might not be enough. So if you have to set up a conservation area, you have to set it up with the fact, or using the fact that the resources that are allocated will allow you to set up an efficient conservation area. So again, we're talking about the part whereby the biodiversity is not evenly distributed. So it could be, yes, a forest area, but then within the forest area, maybe you have an area where you have high endemism of trees. So while you are setting to protect the whole forest, you could choose to start protecting the area that has high endemism and is facing a huge pressure in terms of maybe deforestation. So that's why we are saying when we want to set up a conservation area, you need to do it in a way that is guided by principles, and also will, at the end of the day, the output of the conservation effort will show you some fruits, or the efforts that you put into play will bear you some fruits. So the diagram I'm showing on this is just a schematic preview of maybe different steps you can take, but this is not the final bit of it. So this gives us a guide, so you can use this one to jump from one step to another. So for example, you are talking about a target landscape. Yeah. So what are the candidate species in that? Again, identifying human activity within those areas, or the potential threats that the human activity are causing to this. So while you have this agreement on the candidate landscape and select the species that you think would need the highest level of conservation, then you can go to the next level, whereby you define the biological landscape, where these species are being found. What is it that they are using? Maybe the feeding ground, the breeding ground. So once this one is in play, then it becomes easy for you to intersect or intertwine the two biological aspects, the human landscape of that area. So once this one comes into play, or it's finalized, then you can move ahead and defining or delineating an area. So in this prioritization, or the reason was why we're saying we want to set up maybe a biodiversity hotspot, we're looking at different criteria that we have to take into consideration. One of them is the vulnerability. So the measure to which a species or ecosystem is at risk of extinction or degradation. Another one is the irreplaceability. So assess how unique a critical site is for maintaining a global biodiversity. Then the next criteria is the economic cost. So when you put these together, all of them should give you an indicator. So if you set a place that you want to set as a conservation area, what is the vulnerability bit of it in terms of the biodiversity in that area, the irreplaceability of that area, or the economic cost. So the amount or the funds that you have, is it enough to set up a 3,000 square kilometer conservation area, or is it enough to just set a 10,000 or 10 square kilometer? So you have to do the cost benefit analysis and also look into the different aspect, the biological aspect in this, so that once you set up that area, you know you have enough resources that will allow you to do the conservation effectively. So if in the image on the left side, so on the right side, you have like a case example of one, the biodiversity utilization of the area, and also the human utilization of those areas. So if we set up to do a conservation in a certain area, we need to know what's the interaction between the resource of the biodiversity and the human use of that area. So if we agree that one area is can be set aside, whereby it allows for the biodiversity in that area to continue existing and also the human being to continue utilizing that area, then we come up with now a formalized plan that this is the area that we set up because it's meeting all the requirements. One, the vulnerability of that area, replaceability, and the economic cost that we set to put. So these are just a case example of how do you go about prioritizing an area. So you can see we started with very few maybe polygons, but at the end of the slide, you see the polygons have increased, showing the interconnectedness of the area that we want to set up as a priority. So the same case. So once you embark on maybe setting up a conservation area, you need to go through these steps so that you have an area that is conserved and meets all the requirements. So, for example, when we're talking about the use of these criteria, so any time when we are talking about maybe the readiness, yeah. So in a global map, we want to see which area has the highest biodiversity hotspot. So if we overlay the species vulnerability data on the map, then we'll be able to map which areas has high vulnerability of the species. So the red list application bit of it. Again, when we're talking about highlighting the endemic or functional unique species, so you could overlay the map again to see which area, if it's lost, then it's very difficult to replace that area or reverse those areas. Then when we incorporate all these layers, then you'll be able to tell where do you have a huge, maybe, where do you have a huge, maybe, returns on investment. So when you do maybe the land acquisition, so you want to set an area for conservation, but then you want to also check when I do the cost benefit analysis. So by setting up a conservation in this area, vis-a-vis maybe the human use of this area, which one is more acceptable to the community, and also which one is more acceptable in terms of the cost or the investment cost in that area. So that's why sometimes when we do conservation or when we set up an area of conservation without maybe looking into this in details, sometimes we're always having this end product of we set up a conservation area, but it's not working. It's possible when you delineate an area, but then you missed out on some of the key aspect that you are supposed to look into. So it's not just a matter of maybe setting aside a certain area, but also following the principles that will help you to tell if this area you set up will, at the end of the day, will achieve the objective. Maybe it's protecting a certain endemic species. Yeah. So these are the way we go about mapping, and this is what we're saying, the layers that we use and then overlay on this. So the application of this, we have some global frameworks we use, which uses this. You've heard of the key biodiversity area, yeah? So how do they come up in setting those areas? So the sites are selected based on the criteria like threatened biodiversity, ecological integrity, and the replaceability. So I've put some links here for you maybe to dive deep into this on how you come up with selecting maybe a key biodiversity area. Another one is on systematic conservation planning. Yeah. So using spatial prioritization tools to optimize site selection based on biodiversity value and cost efficiency. So what we are saying, because we are in decade of conservation, So how do we go about working with the community or working with the different partners in a certain area, so that once we say we want to achieve the 30 by 30, the target 3, whereby we want to conserve about 30% of the landmass of that country. So to put this one up, we need to know the different ecosystem in that countries and what's the different biodiversity in those countries. So if we set up, we want to do that in 1 year, we have the resources to do that. Yeah, do we have the expertise to do that? So we need to use maybe a spatial prioritization, the maps that we creating. You overlay this map on your country map, then try to see which area is more vulnerable. So you could maybe rank these areas in terms of which one needs maybe the immediate conservation efforts and which one least needs that. But that doesn't mean the one that's with the least maybe expectation or with the least maybe pressure does not also go into conservation. So we are saying you are prioritizing to help you maybe solve a problem that could see one ecosystem or one species go extinct. Yet if you put enough effort in it, you could probably resolve one of the problem. We've seen in the previous speaker is shown how maybe some case examples of whereby a species was almost extinct, but through conservation efforts, which follow principles, you are able to return those species that were almost extinct. Yeah. So again, when you are applying for funds, sometimes the funding models will require you to cite maybe the species that you're talking about, you want to conserve. Is it listed as threatened, vulnerable? Yeah. You remember the different categorization of the red list. Yeah? So some funding organization will require you to show cost. So the species that you're talking about has high threat level in terms of extinction. So for them to give you the funding, you have to show that you've used these criteria or you've prioritized the different species. A country could have maybe 2,000 species, but among those 2,000 species, one of them or maybe two are highly vulnerable. So in terms of funding, maybe the institution will look vis-a-vis which species is more vulnerable than the other. So in terms of the funding, you have to abide by the different requirements that's coming to. So that's how you go about using the different prioritization criteria to set up a proposal in terms of conserving a species. So we said we've the assumption is we've set up a conservation area. Yeah, we've delineated this area, we've marked, we said it has maybe vulnerable species. But then again, after setting up, what next? Yeah, so you have to monitor this area to show, is there a difference between before, we call it the baseline, and after? Yeah, so post-conservation and pre-conservation setup. So you said this area is the species in this area is vulnerable, right? So you only have around 20 maybe species of leopard or cheetah in that area, or the mango tiger in Bangladesh. So you're saying, because you've set this area as a conservation area, the number of species or the number of the tigers that were there were only 20. But because you've delineated this area, you've talked with the community about conserving this area, not maybe cutting the mangroves down, so that you can give space for the tiger to reproduce and also have enough space for feeding or breeding. So after maybe 5 years, if the gestation period of the tiger is maybe 5 years or something of that nature, just a case example, then you come back again, then assess that area to see if it's met the objective that you intended for that conservation area. So you need to check how effective this area that you put into place, if it's achieving those, or maybe if when you set up to increase the number, is that one being achieved? If not, so what's the problem that's causing the number not to increase as you had expected? So to check this maybe effectiveness, you could look at the ecological indicators, you could look at socio economic indicators or the policy indicators. It could be you set up this area because you wanted to increase the number of species. So you come back again when you are monitoring that area to see the number of species that you had, have they increased or are they still there? Or the number is still there, but then more healthier than when the previous before conservation. So these are the ecological indicators. When you come to social or economic indicators, you say the livelihood of the community in this area. Before you set up the conservation, they were below maybe the living standard. But after conservation and also setting up measures like alternative livelihood, increase maybe, or alternative livelihood like tourism in that area, as that one increase maybe the livelihood style of those communities. So you come back again, you check to see if the conservation you put into place is benefiting the community. The policy indicators, we are saying initially maybe the conservation aspect was not a very key debate in maybe different countries' parliaments. But after conservation and the effectiveness of that conservation, now when you're talking about when the discussion are ongoing in the parliament, there are quite a number of aspects that with the policy on conservation is coming into play. Yeah. So I think last week there was a mention of how you go to check maybe the data on the areas that are conserved on a global aspect. So that one forms part of now the conservation effectiveness decision support tool. Yeah. So the PAME the PAME website is shows you which areas have been protected and which areas have been protected effectively. Yeah, so to be able to maybe check if the area has been protected, there are different tools that have come into play or have been designed to maybe to answer specific question about conservation effectiveness. So there could be those that are talking about human indicators or the socioeconomic indicators. There are those that could be talking about management indicators or the policy indicators. So what I have here is the GDPAME website tracks the assessment done per protected area within the world database on protected area. So if you go to this link, you see all the protected area that have been listed in the GDPAME, and they will show you if they've been assessed to check if they meet the criteria of being effective. So again, we have another website you can check, the BioPAMA, has like come up with a simplified list of the different tools used in PAME with some explanation on those. So you'll be able to see the different tools that are being used. Also, you can check against your country which tool is being used to assess the protected area effectiveness in those. So we're using this, it becomes easy for you to also maybe advise the government that the tool that you use is only looking at one indicator, maybe ecological indicators. But so that you have a holistic aspect of conservation effectiveness, they could also include other tools that are used for checking the different conservation effectiveness. So if you got the BioPAMA link, you'll be able to see the different tools and what they are used for. Yeah. So I'll just give a case example of IMET. I think this was touched on last week by my colleague Eric, where it talks about integrated management effectiveness. So we are saying you've set up a conservation area. So this conservation area has different levels of management. Yeah, it could be we have the CEO of the conservation, we have the rangers, or we have the community. Yeah. So while you are setting up the conservation, you had a plan. You are saying by the end, maybe after 5 years, you want to see this conservation having achieved. Sorry. You want to see this area having achieved a certain level of management effectiveness in that area. It could be that the CEO or the manager of that park is able to train more people. So using the IMET, you are able to cross-check the different tabs in terms of maybe the management level, the climate level. Then from that, you'll be able to tell. So since you set up the conservation area, have you been able to meet all these indicators, or have you been able to, how far are you reaching maybe 100%? Because essentially, when you're setting up a conservation, you want to have 100% effective conservation. But because of different aspects of conservation, you could maybe lose track in one and emphasize on another. So using IMET, you are able to tell how far are you in terms of achieving the different targets, maybe management context, planning context, input. So the IMET has like a sample way of showing you where are you falling short of reaching the target and where are you doing good. So in the next round of maybe assessment of, or in the next round of adaptive management, you know where you put more effort in this. So this just a case example of a sample of IMET results showing you the different categories, management context, planning, input, process, output, and the different levels at which maybe at the end of the assessment, you've been able to achieve this. On the right side, it's gives you a grid of now a more detailed aspect. So under management part, there are different aspects that you could be looking at. Yeah. So how well are you doing in the management context? And the different colors shown also indicates how far you are. So the green is good. The orange? Yeah, gives you a better indicator. But then when on the yellow bit of it, it shows that that's where you are lagging. So in the next maybe effort or trying to improve that conservation area, then you need to put more emphasis on the yellow boxes. Yeah. So despite this, we are saying the measuring of the conservation effectiveness is not always very straightforward. And that's why sometimes I think it's very difficult to give a report of how effective an area is. So you can't compare one area of conserved area to another, simply because they have different maybe goals or processes that they are using to achieve the objective. So one thing we normally see is most of the time, it's very difficult to link outcomes directly to the specific actions. So those are some of the things or some of the challenges when it comes to assessing the effectiveness of a conserved area. Sometimes limited or inconsistent monitoring data. One, because of the resources that have been allocated for that, or the complexity of the ecosystem. You agree with me, not all ecosystems are different. It could be a forest, but the same forest may be having different trees. Navigating through a tree, it could, or through a certain forest could be very difficult for you to assess the whole forest. And in other cases, it's very easy to maybe bypass another forest on the same. So what are the opportunities we can get from this? So assuming we use the IMET bit of it. So IMET is easily able to tell you how far you've been able to achieve the objective that you are in. And you're looking at the NBSAPs, the National Biodiversity Strategy Plan. Yeah. So you can use IMET to tell you in the next revision of NBSAPs, how far are you in terms of maybe integrating biodiversity data or information in the NBSAPs. Again, you can use IMET to training the national conservation curricula, because you're saying the conservation has maybe almost the same or similar steps, but in the details would be different. So the IMET can help you to train the different people to maybe go about doing conservation assessment in the country, or also leveraging the IMET for policy advocacy and funding. So most of the funding for conservation requires that you show what is it that's not working in the conservation. Yeah. So how can you, what is it that you can use? The IMET tool, being that it's a recognized tool that used to check the conservation effectiveness, you can use the results of that to table down maybe a proposal to a funding organization to tell them, after doing our assessment, we see we are short on this and we are strong on this. So if we get some finances, we will be able to channel this to the areas that we are weak on, and we will be able to help the country or the conservation to improve in the next round of assessment. Yeah. So I think this gives us a better or a deeper understanding of when we're talking about conservation, you need to go beyond maybe setting up an area, but also going into assessing how effective, after you set up this area, is it meeting the conservation goals that you intended for that? Yeah. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much. So I'll let my next colleague to come and also proceed. So we'll take question after we summarize this, because we thought, being that it's a theoretical part, we have all of this in one go, then we'll be able to answer all the questions at a go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jackie, a policy engagement specialist here at RCMRD, and I'll be taking you through the next session, that is session 5 for module 3. It's on community engagement. So in this session, we'll be exploring how participatory GIS is essential in supporting decision-making and even upholding our conservation and coming up with policies that are legitimate and acceptable by everyone and all the stakeholders. So why is participatory GIS? Why is participatory GIS necessary in conservation? It acts as a bridge between the technical tool, the technical aspects of the GIS, and now the local knowledge that is provided by the communities and other stakeholders. So key objectives for this session, it's to understand exactly what this participatory GIS is, how it supports inclusive decision-making, its role in strengthening policy legitimacy, and identifying even the policy frameworks and policy frameworks that mandate community participation in this conservation, as well as the value of geospatial tools in participatory governance. So to start us off are two scenarios. So let's assume you come from a flood zone, town or village or community, and there's a project to come up with mitigation measures to ensure that we come up with evacuation routes and even to come up with proper drainage. So there's a technical person and there's you as a community person or someone who lives in this town. But the technical person will provide this data. There's probably an aerial map or a GIS map. And then you as a person in this community, you have knowledge on the areas that flood fast in case the rain starts. You know the routes that you usually use daily, could be children going to school or just everyone accessing any other public facility. So with when you get to be involved in the initial stages, you're able to now identify these actual routes that this technical person would have left out. You also provide any other local knowledge, and with that, the final map is able to reflect both the technical data and the lived experience of you and the rest of everyone. With that, the local authorities is able now to come up with something that is acceptable and proper drainage in areas that are affected. It could also be a new road is being constructed in your area, and your area has wildlife and yes, wildlife. So you as the community person, you know where the elephants, the giraffes, other animals, they cross. And me as the technical person, I might not know exactly these areas. So if I include you, we are able to come up with a road design that is able to accommodate these areas without disturbing the animals. So being able to include everyone will now protect biodiversity while also allowing development. Yes, we need proper roads, but at the same time, we need to ensure that we don't disrupt our animals. So with that, we can now get a definition of what participatory GIS is. So it combines geospatial technology and the local knowledge of everyone involved. So the most significant and valuable contribution of this participatory GIS is that it elicits and represents, as well as validating the local and spatial knowledge, that is indigenous knowledge as well. So before I proceed, a minute. So I could pose a question to you as you prepare to ask me questions at the end. So between with the scenarios and this explanation that we have of what participatory GIS is, I could ask you, where do maps come alive? Is it in our offices, in enclosed walls, or is it in the open fields? Please type your answer and we will get to see who is correct and even come up with the right answer. So what does participatory GIS provide? There is spatial specificity. When you have additional information from people, the local knowledge from the people and all stakeholders, you get to value their perceptions, and you also get to include their interests and priorities because you're planning for them. So in this sense, your conservation, yes, we need data and maps, but who are we conserving for? It is our ecosystems and the people in these areas. So social inclusivity, again, you get to represent everyone. There is local and external knowledge, so indigenous knowledge and sacred knowledge that otherwise could not be known by our experts. We also get to, at the same time, build capacity for these communities to know what a map is, how to interpret these maps, such that when they are now published in documents and other policies, they're able to understand and they see that they are being represented. So how does participatory GIS support inclusive decision making? We need to understand, first of all, the core values of how to integrate the communities. So there has to be capacity building, there has to be inclusive decision making. You have to ensure that you include all the knowledge that we gather, not just gathering them and you just accept their knowledge, but you don't include it in what you're coming up with. So the final outcome is you're able to equip these communities, the planners as well. These are the local authorities that are coming up with decisions. You're also able to even include our politicians who most of the times influence most of the policies. You're also able to come up with evidence now based insights. So whatever policies, whatever decisions you come up with, they're anchored in something that everyone can see. So the role of GIS in strengthening now policy legitimacy. What happens when you include everyone in coming up with policies? What happens when the policies you're coming up with, they're anchored on accurate data that everyone has been involved from the beginning? You're able to promote transparency. Policymaker is able to be held accountable because there is data and now it is supporting the policies that you're coming up with. You're able to enable equitable resource allocation. The communities, with community data, with their knowledge and all their insights, everyone is able to be accommodated in these policies in terms of sharing the resources that are available in our ecosystems. Data is able to be visualized to everyone. There is none that is hidden. So you foster trust and accountability at the same time. So you're also able to address spatial inequalities for inclusive policies. So another thing, there is improved service delivery. Being accountable as a policymaker, you don't want it to be chaotic. You don't want people to say you're not including them. So even delivering services will be improved. You're able to optimize even facility and resource placement. There is conflict reduction. When people are involved, it's easy now to get rid of the chaos that would have erupted if they're not listened to. Again, there is transparency, there is enhanced accountability at the same time. So GIS in action, what happens after this participatory GIS and even coming up with policies? So for an instance is during elections, voter mapping and outreach. There is land use planning when you're coming up with various land uses. When we want to come up with sustainable development, it's only sustainable if it's acceptable and it is supported by accurate data. Disaster management, I gave an example of flooding. Then there's public health. When there's an outbreak, you're able to track and then intervene correctly, again, having involved the community. Transportation, when you're coming up with transport rules or even you want to optimize it when there is traffic. Yes, so in terms of key policy frameworks that mandate community participation, a key one is the is the global mandate, the CBD, which gives emphasis, that is Article 8, that is Article 8J of the CBD, specifically recognizes the role of indigenous people and local communities. We have the 23 targets, but they're not just numbers. And they will not be just numbers if you include the people right from the beginning. For example, the achieving 30 by 30, identifying priority areas, monitoring these areas, and you will only be able to monitor them, you will only identify the priority areas if you include everyone. So other than the CBD one, we have even the United Nations Decade on Ecosystem. We have the previous one, the Nagoya Protocol. We have several of them, and we have uploaded these documents on the e-learning platform. There's a link, there's a summary of what they entail, the year they came to place, and even the region that they cover. So all this is available if you want to read more about these policies, documents. So key again, we talked about the CBD and how it recognizes the indigenous people, emphasis on including them. The 30 by 30, yes, how the only way you will achieve these targets is also making it inclusive. We cannot only focus on data and coming up with the maps without having everyone on board. So in terms of statistics, this is where we are at. In the Eastern and Southern Africa region, the first map is a representation of how NBSAPs that are aligned with the current KMGBF. We have the green, that is Tanzania and Uganda, that have submitted updated NBSAPs. We have the yellow, they are yet to submit. However, the second map is showing that these countries, most of them have submitted the national targets. So you see with GIS and being able to include the community to interpret such things, they're able to see, by the way, my country is behind, so there's something that needs to be done. Where can we allocate more funds? Where can we build more capacity to ensure that we all achieve these targets? So in terms of the key indicators for this 30 by 30, we have coverage, the actual percentage of land that is contributing to this target. We have ecological presentation, what proportion of these ecosystems, the habitats included in the conserved areas, connectivity, in terms of the extent to which they are linked to each other and even to allow species movement. Management, there has to be effective management. Again, you have to include everyone because some are even managed by the local communities themselves. Then equity and governance, that is, again, we have to include everyone. So what is the relevance of us achieving this 30 by 30 to participatory GIS? Mapping and monitoring, as mentioned. The GIS integrates now this local knowledge with the spatial data that you as a technical person has, and you're able to correctly now constitute the 30%. Stakeholder engagement, we have data for indicators that support spatial analysis for ecological representation, connectivity, and management. We have transparency and legitimacy. The transparency in terms of this 30 by 30 has to be credible. From the analysis, we have seen some of us are yet to even submit the NBSAPs. Maybe where are we going wrong? We have funding gaps, over-reliance on donor funding. There need to be emphasis on the importance of conserving these areas, on the importance of what do we gain as a community, as a nation, as a region by achieving these targets. So having people, our politicians and other policymakers being able to understand the necessity of this, more funds are able to be allocated to these areas. Weak institutional capacity where we have shortage of staff, and this is what now even as CBD and as RCMRD as a TSC is able to come in with the capacity building to be able to cover this gap. We have data deficiencies, that is infrequent or outdated biodiversity and protected area management data. So this data needs to be updated regularly. Competing land uses, where on some instances, these conserved areas and protected areas are being cleared or encroached to allow agriculture infrastructure. So we need to consolidate this. Agriculture is important, food security is important, but what's the impact if we encroach all these areas just to come up with food? Our future generations will be affected. Then under recognition of OECMs, we have community and privately managed areas. We need to ensure that they're covered in this when reporting for the 30 by 30 targets. We have climate change pressures, ecosystem degradation, which now is outpacing the restoration efforts. We have limited community engagement, which is something now we are emphasizing on, inclusivity of everyone. We have cross-border coordination gaps where poor cooperation, like let's say we share a protected area with a neighboring country. We have to make sure that our priorities are the same. We have to make sure that we all want to conserve it. Yes, thank you so much. So I will open up the session to a Q&A. And then after that, we will, for just 5 minutes, and then we can have a short break and our next presenter. So first, I had asked a question on where do maps come alive? Is it our office or in the open fields? And the correct answer is both. One cannot exist without the other. Community knowledge is important, but the technical aspect is also important. So we have to integrate both and come up with effective management and conservation. Questions? I see a question from a hand from Teddy Namati. Please unmute yourself so that we can hear your question.
Okay, thank you. On the issue of protecting the endangered species, concerning on elephants, I have seen that Botswana and Zimbabwe have the largest number of elephants in both the East, probably in the entire Africa. Maybe what are the pills? In other words, what are the policies, institution, and legal frameworks that they have put in place that maybe Kenya and Tanzania are not doing?
Each and every country has a different legal policies and frameworks that's going to play when we say we want to conserve a certain species. So I think it becomes easy. It becomes easy for you to look through the country legal actions or maybe the agency that's in charge of the elephant conservation. In our case, for example, in Kenya, we have Kenya Wildlife Service, and it has its Wildlife Management Act that we use to set different rules or the policies or the procedures that we use to go about conserving the elephant in that area. So if it's another species, we go back to the Kenya Wildlife Service and we check through what is it that they put in place to help maybe conserve a certain species. So I think each and every country has different rules and regulations, but what we see most of the time is we normally have rules, but the enforcement bit of it is what we find as the most challenging bit. So you set up that anybody who's maybe caught maybe hunting elephants, for example, in Kenya, you're not supposed to hunt elephants. So if you're caught, the person is never taken to the court, or maybe the bride and then the person is never arrested. So you find that when you say you want to, maybe if you want to see how effective the conservation has, you expect that you need to have very stringent measures on how we deal with people who've been caught doing maybe illegal poaching in a certain area. But maybe once the person is arrested, but then you have the top maybe managers who maybe go into what we call the underworld. Then the person is so in fact that it becomes very difficult, like to harmonize or to say that the laws of Zambia or Zimbabwe are very weak compared to Kenya. So if we are able to look at what's that is aiding my country in terms of maybe implementing a certain law about conservation, then we will be able to find a solution to maybe protecting a certain species and endangered species, for example.
Thank you, Josphat. Hopefully, Teddy, that was you've been answered. Before I take the next person, that is Anthony, someone had asked how we measure community engagement. So community engage, I think most of us have been involved in one or more. So whenever we are having these workshops or even involving any community or indigenous people, there's usually the surveys that are conducted. So from the surveys, you get their inputs, and then at the same time, you get to record these sessions so that you're able even to come up with a report. So not necessarily quantitatively, so more of qualitatively in terms of measuring it. The next person, so we will take two more, Anthony and Jonathan. We can start with Anthony. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie, and the other presentation for the elaborate presentations.
Anthony?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the elaborate presentations, and these will greatly help in the stakeholders' understanding of how to, monitor and report on Target 3. Mine is more of a concern, not specifically a question. In the whole module and the logistical challenges, some of the logistical challenges we are going through. Looking at the chart today, there's quite a number of questions on the logistics of accessing the platform, which I think need more focus on, especially on the administration side. Mine particularly is on the e-learning platform. Up to yesterday morning, I was getting the verifications code on time, but since yesterday morning, I cannot get the verification codes. So I've raised the issue in the community as well as in the chat, but has not been addressed. And due to the time constraint, it's affecting the, it's interfering with our planning. So if that can be solved, I'd really appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Your concern is noted, and we really apologize for that. Let me have one of our technical person to respond to you.
Okay, so for that technical hitch, we fixed the issue yesterday, so it might take a bit of time to propagate. So just keep reloading your page and then you will receive a code soon enough. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate.
Okay. The last one, okay, not really the last one, but you can type your questions and they'll be addressed. Jonathan. Yes, Jonathan, please unmute yourself.
All right. Thank you so much for the presentation. Mine is not really a question per se. I just wanted to contribute to what Mr. Josphat said concerning Teddy's question. I'm based in Zambia. I'm a Zambian, but I've stayed a long time in Botswana. And one thing that I've come to understand is, in as much as both countries might have policies that talk about, wildlife management of the wildlife species and animals. Botswana, from my observation, the government of Botswana is very heavy on implementation and enforcing of the law. So in as much as a lot of other African countries might have the policies quite all right, but a lot of us a lot of the countries really are weak in terms of enforcing the law. So that's why maybe you find that people normally say that the elephants cross the Zambezi River into Zambia in the day, you know, to graze and to roam. And then at night, they go back into Botswana because it's safe there and there's no poaching there. So I feel as if it's just a matter of enforcement of the law and making sure that, you know, there are strict measures put in place for things like poaching and the like. And then another technical challenge I've been having is the Abade Forest Range data. I have been trying to, I think it's the same issue. I've been trying to go on to the next part, but I'm being told it must be marked as done. But when I go to the section where the forest data is, I cannot mark it as done. There's no button there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your contribution and the concern on the Aberdare data. Let's have someone comment on that.
Can you please clarify which module?
Jonathan?
I was about to start today's module, the module 3. So it says that you cannot complete not until you do the Abade forest data range. But I've downloaded it's a zip file. I've downloaded the zip file, but I cannot mark it as complete.
Okay, noted. We're just checking now and reload your page in a few minutes. It should be fixed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your contributions and even listening. So there are more notes and information and articles concerning this session 5 on the e-learning platform. It will be accessible after this. Please do engage and all the best in the quiz. So we will take a 5 minutes break and then come back for a short session, another one for this module 3. Thank you so much.
So, ladies and gentlemen, greetings from RCMRD. My name is Julius Buyengo, and I would like to take you through a session on illegal wildlife or tracking or illegal activities, basically trying to look at environmental crime. And we are trying to push forward or to advocate for the application of geoinformation systems in tracking environmental crime. And when we talk about environmental crime, we'll see some of the components that comprise of environmental crime. So this is the module 3, session 3. I thought we decided to bring it towards the end of this live session so that we can now get into ArcGIS Pro. And from tomorrow now we do the hands-on activities. General overview. Generally, we just want to enhance technical capabilities, enhance analytical skills towards the application of the information in tracking illegal environmental activities. Of course, you have listened to theory, case studies have been presented, and now we'll do a hands-on activity, hands-on mapping exercise, where we'll be mapping elephant mortality incidences in Zimbabwe using ArcGIS Pro. We just want to learn how we can map hotspots. Of course, these data sets have been gathered, but we'd like to understand the patterns, and also based on the patterns, we try to make some decisions going forward on how we can enhance our conservation activities. These have already been presented. Of course, we're talking about application of geoinformation, remote sensing, and monitoring environmental crime. Looking at some of the data sources, we'll try to understand some of the sources of data that we can leverage on in terms of monitoring or tracking environmental crime. Of course, the satellite imagery or Earth observation data will be key in trying to monitor some of the trends, especially in illegal logging. Then, of course, we'll generate some risk map, just try to understand the patterns on the ground based on the prevailing conditions. Talking of environmental crime, of course, categorized into three major components. We have wildlife crimes, we have forest crimes, then we have cross-cutting issues. Talking of wildlife crimes, we're talking about poaching, where specific activities entail illegal hunting and killing or capturing of wild animals. There's trafficking, where we are moving animal products from one point to another. Of course, there is issues of demand and supply. Talking of forest crimes, you're talking about illegal logging, where we are cutting down forests for purposes of harvesting timber, transporting it and to different parts of the world. And then there's a component on forest encroachment and degradation, where we are converting the forests into other land uses in order to meet the challenges or the food or other resource-related challenges as mankind. We have cross-cutting issues where we are, of course, we are competing for limited resources with wildlife, and we end up having human-wildlife conflicts. There are issues of organized crime networks that are illegally exploiting our natural resources. So basically, in this module, we want to see how we can deploy the information systems to track some of these activities. Application areas, basically, this slide is just trying to present how we can map environmental crime. To the left, you can see there's a map on, it's about presenting elephant ranges, poaching hotspots, and also presenting some of the ports through which elephant commodities are exiting the continent to the outer world. Just trying to understand where do elephants exist, and which areas have been earmarked as hotspots, and how do these elephant products exit the continent to different parts of the world. Map number 2, just trying to depict the application of the information systems in terms of risk analysis. So based on different factors on the ground, be it terrain, be it land use, land cover, be it population or settlements, be it environmental conditions, we can put together these data sets and run some analysis so that we determine which factors are contributing or are exposing our wildlife to different incidences of poaching or crime. The next one is on applying the information systems in enforcement. Just trying to ensure that we are giving evidences of where these illegal activities are happening on the ground. And basically, we are saying that we can use the information as a tool of for giving evidence in terms of enforcement. Suppose a crime happened somewhere within a protected area or within a conserved area. We can be able to get the coordinates of the exact location. We can be able to get photos, and we can be able to get descriptive information of the incident. So when we integrate this information within the information system, we can be able to use this as evidence within a court of law to prosecute some of these perpetrators of environmental crime. To the right, there's a slide where we're having equipment and we're having manpower, and we are saying that courtesy of the information systems, we can identify the hotspots. And once the hotspots have been identified, we can be able to now allocate resources in terms of manpower, in terms of equipment, so that we can enhance the monitoring of these ecosystems or hotspot areas. We are also saying that GIS is key in terms of enhancing the way in which we engage with our communities, because they will need to see some maps. They need to see some visual interpretations for them, for purposes of getting a proper understanding of the information or the challenges on the ground. And basically, we can deploy the information for purposes of creating awareness about the environmental crimes that are happening within our ecosystems. So on this slide, this is a participatory approach where we have generated the maps, we have brought it to the communities. We want to get more information from them. What is their understanding of the prevailing trends and patterns on the ground? So we are saying it's a tool that can be used to present information in terms of maps, statistics, and graphs for purposes of ensuring that we are delivering insights, while at the same time getting more information or trying to beef up the data sets that we are capturing courtesy of the information, courtesy of remote sensing, and we're integrating local knowledge for purposes now of making sure that we are enriching our data sets, databases and maps. So what are some of the use cases in terms of the deployment of geoinformation systems? We have various institutions have deployed collars for purposes of monitoring the movements of this wildlife within the conservancies. For example, you can see on the left, there's an elephant that has been collared, and this collar directly communicates with the satellites in space for purposes of tracking the movements of the animal. So whenever there's an incident on the ground, or there are some movements that are not usual on the ground, the rangers can be able to detect these unusual movements or no movements at all, just trying to understand what is happening on this animal. So courtesy of that, you can be able to deploy resources to quickly get to the specific location and understand why is this animal not moving, or why is it moving in a manner that is not is abnormal. To the right, we are talking about the deployment of high-resolution images in trying to track changes in a forest environment. These examples for the Congo Basin, Central Africa, where there are illegal settlers who have gotten in the forest and they are cutting down trees. So if we are able to do periodic monitoring, for example, on weekly basis, get the high-res image for that area on weekly basis, we can be able to observe the trends in terms of illegal logging. Of course, we can also deploy unmanned aerial vehicles, that is the UAVs, on daily basis, just to try to monitor our ecosystems and know if there are any changes that are happening courtesy of human activities. This is an example of pangolin trafficking, poaching and trafficking in Cameroon. And you can see a risk analysis map on the left, different colors, red showing the area where the incidences of poaching are very high. And as we cascade down towards the yellow, that's where the incidences are getting lower. But basically, this map just helps us to understand what specific points within Cameroon do the pangolins get poached in high numbers. Then, what are the exit routes? The map to the right. What are the exit routes? You'll find that this is a research that was done by Tinsman, JC Tinsman, sometimes back in 2023. And he was trying to understand, he and team were trying to understand, create insights about pangolin exports, poaching and exports from Cameroon. So what they determined is that these pangolins are exported through Nigeria, and as they get into Nigeria, they are now onboarded aircrafts, and you'll find that they are being exported to the Far East. So these are some of the examples in which you can deploy the information systems. Number one is just to understand the risk on the ground. Number two, we are trying to understand how do the animals move from the poaching zones to different markets around the world. This is a use case in Peru, where there are challenges with the forest monitoring, forest restoration, courtesy of high extraction rates in terms of logging. To the left, you can see a map that is trying to depict the rates of forest loss within Peru. Of course, we're also looking at the neighbors, Ecuador, Colombia, and you see that the areas that we have been highlighted in red, they depict areas where there is high forest loss. Areas in yellow, there are low levels of encroachment or forest loss. And areas where you can see green and dark green, these are areas that are still intact. To the center, we're trying to depict deforestation hotspots within Peru, and also trying to see, of course, there is a monitoring activity trying to track where this timber is moving, okay, from the logging hotspots to different markets. And of course, there is also an analysis of the statistics in terms of the timber that was able to be seized by the authorities. So basically, this is how we can display geoinformation data or geospatial data with regard to illegal timber monitoring. And you can see the deforestation hotspots have been classified based on whether it's a new hotspot, whether there's a hotspot where there's intensified activities, persistent activities. So those are some of the classifications that we can use in terms of understanding deforestation hotspots. Now to the right is just the trafficking routes. Most of the timber is transported to Lima, where it exists through the port of Lima to different countries, including China. So what we are doing is just trying to present some of the cases and how geoinformation systems have been used before. And we want to enhance the application of geoinformation systems as we continue to monitor our protected and conserved areas in different parts of the world. So courtesy of this presentation, we'll embark into hands-on activity where we'll be mapping illegal poaching, and there will be an exercise on illegal logging so that participants can generate a map. We'll show you how to generate the map. Of course, the software requirements is ArcGIS Pro. I hope you have already installed. If not, I can quickly take you through the steps. We'll call some data sets on illegal mortality, elephant mortality, and illegal logging from ArcGIS Online. Then we'll play around with these data sets to generate some insights on illegal logging, and also try to map the elephant mortality hotspots within Zimbabwe. So allow me to switch over to ArcGIS Pro so that I can quickly get an understanding of how to install ArcGIS Pro. All right, I'll quickly switch to ArcGIS Pro. And with a quick understanding of basically what is ArcGIS Pro, and we are saying it is a professional desktop software that was developed by the Environmental Systems Research Institute. And why was it developed? For purposes of helping us to explore, visualize, analyze, and geospatial data. And of course, in the presentations of outputs, we'll be using, or you can deploy 2D maps, two-dimensional maps. Or you can two-dimensional maps are maps that are basically presenting it's just a flat plane with the length and the width. And on the 3D scene, we are integrating the height component. So we have length, width, and height. And we are saying that ArcGIS Pro is that just enables us to create maps, perform spatial analysis, share projects, share results, among other products. System requirements. You need these are some of the operating systems that the software supports. There's Windows 11 Pro, Enterprise, Windows 10, Pro Enterprise 64, Windows Server 2025, 2022, 2019, 2016. And key, before you install this software, you need to have a .NET, Microsoft.NET runtime, minimum of 8.00 or a later version. You'll note that this .NET framework is updated periodically. So kindly install version 8.0 upwards. And why do we need the .NET framework? It basically it acts as a base for ArcGIS Pro by providing libraries, components, interfaces, which ArcGIS Pro relies on, especially the graphical user interface. There is a code and provides interactability within the operating systems. Hardware requirements. Of course, what I'm presenting is already on the online learning platform under ArcGIS resources. Feel free to access this manual so that it can guide you in installing ArcGIS Pro. There is also a downloaded version of the software there on the online learning platform, but I'll demonstrate how you can quickly download it on from ArcGIS Online. So these are some of the system requirements. Feel free to check your machine and make sure that it's compatible. CPU requirements, the platform, storage capabilities. You need to have enough storage. Of course, we'll be pulling this data set from online. So you need to have adequate RAMs with the adequate size, minimum 8 GB. Recommended is 32 GB. Talking about graphics and screen resolutions, kindly make reference to this. The manual will guide you through how to download. First of all, you log into the ArcGIS Online. The credentials were provided. Once you are logged in, you'll go to your account or account name, get to settings, look for licenses. Then you'll find the license products. Scroll down, you'll get ArcGIS Pro. You hit the download button, should be able to download. Once it's downloaded, make sure, of course, within the slides, there's a link for downloading the .NET runtime framework. Hit that link, download the latest version of .NET framework. Once both are downloaded, you will first install the .NET framework. Once it is installed, the steps have been provided. Once it is installed, you now install the ArcGIS Pro. So the steps are here. Kindly make sure you reach out to this manual so that it can guide you in terms of installing ArcGIS Pro. So from tomorrow, we'll be doing a hands-on practical on the installation of ArcGIS. Sorry, you need to install ArcGIS Pro today. Then tomorrow we now get into pulling the data sets, playing around with the symbols, and creating a map. So quickly, I want to do a demo of. Let me know if my window is visible. Okay, I'll stop sharing, then share again. So for the steps, I will make sure you refer to the manual. It will guide you step by step towards, I'm presenting in a while. It will guide you on the step-by-step process of downloading the framework and installing it, then installing ArcGIS Pro. Quickly, I will sign into my ArcGIS Online. So this is how you can easily download. If you cannot download it from the, okay, there are two options. You can, number one, you go to the online learning platform. I'm already logged in. Click on ArcGIS resources here. ArcGIS resources. You can see there is ArcGIS online account activation, training, organization account, how to log in. There is a ArcGIS Pro download link. You can download it from here, or alternatively, you log into ArcGIS Online, your ArcGIS Online. You search for ArcGIS Online on your browser. Click on Sign In. Once you have, you will sign in with your login credentials as were shared with you. Sorry for that. Once I log in, to the right, you can see my profile name. And this is the welcome page for the ArcGIS RCMRD training ArcGIS online page. To the right, you can see my profile name. I'll click on it. Once I click on it, I click on settings. So from settings, there are a number of tabs to the left. There's general, there's security, there's licenses, there's credits. You hit licenses. Once you click on licenses, you will see the different products within the ArcGIS suite that your account allows you to access. Scroll down, you should be able to see ArcGIS Pro. You will see ArcGIS Pro. Click on the download. Click on download. You should be able to download it. So once you have downloaded ArcGIS Pro, we have said that make sure once you download ArcGIS Pro, go to the manual again and download the .NET framework. And we have said the minimum version is 8.00. So just hit on the link. It's on the slides. Hit on the link, download the .NET framework. Once it is downloaded, run the .NET framework. After that, once it has successfully installed, you now install the ArcGIS Pro. So once Pro is installed, you should be able to once it's installed, to start it. Let me close this. Yes, I'll quickly do a demo. So the assumption by the end of today is that everyone will have installed their ArcGIS Pro and it will be up and running. So quickly, given that I'm already logged into my ArcGIS Online, I can quickly, and I've already installed my ArcGIS. Let me share. So once your ArcGIS Pro is installed, these steps are already on the manual. I'll click the start button and search for ArcGIS Pro, and then click on it. Are you able to see my ArcGIS Pro window? Yeah, so once I start ArcGIS, And given that I had logged into ArcGIS online, my ArcGIS Pro will pick the login credentials automatically. So to the right, you can see my name, Julius, RC-RCMRD training. So make sure when you log into when you open your ArcGIS Pro, you should be able to be logged in so that you are able to now access the resource. So this is how the interface of ArcGIS Pro, the page, the loading page looks like. It has 3 tabs to the left. We have home, learning resources, settings. Then we have a new map towards the center. Of course, I've done a number of projects. You can see them here. Then to the right, you'll find the learning resources where you can access quick resources that will guide you through how to manipulate the software if you are new to it. You can start a new map. You can open a new catalog. Catalog is just a component within ArcGIS Pro that helps us to manage our files or our data sets. Global scene enables you to see data at a global level. It will plot your data on the globe. Local scene, just trying to analyze the data at local scales. So this is how the login page or the landing page looks like. Kindly interact with the manual. Interact with the manual on ArcGIS resources. There's the manual on download, installation, and getting started with ArcGIS Pro. Should be all these features have been discussed so that you can easily understand them. So to quickly open a new map, make sure you understand what is on the home tab, what is the learning resources. Here you'll get information or data or info on what is new. You can get help. These learning resources, can access tutorials, you can access Esri Academy, Esri Community, Esri Blog. You can quickly learn how to create a project, explore data, symbolize your map layers, make a layout, among other things. Under settings, you'll get a number of tabs. There is a new open portals, licensing. All these has been discussed in the manual. Please interact with that manual before we set off tomorrow. So I will quickly go back to home, the home page, home tab, and click on map. Of course, it is asking me to name the project. Whenever you start a new map, the software detects that you want to now create a project. So I can quickly give it a name, call it trial or test. We will revisit this tomorrow. Make sure you understand where your software is saving your projects. By default, when the software installs, it creates these files, users, your name, then OneDrive, documents. So under ArcGIS, it will create a projects folder where it will automatically save your files. But you can change this based on your system preferences. If you want to save your maps somewhere else within your computer, you are able to change that. So for me, I'll let it go to the default database or default file. Then I click OK. So this is how the map interface looks like. This is how the map interface looks like.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, participants. Sorry for the technical hitch. We are having a technical hitch, but we want to stop there and open the floor for questions. So I want to open the floor for questions. I'll be unmuting you, then you can just go ahead and ask your question, and we will answer your question. Thank you. Let us start with Teddy Namatsi. Teddy, go ahead and unmute yourself, then ask your question.
Yes, I wanted to ask Will we be using this software for future purposes after the termination of this session?
Unfortunately, the software is only available up to 5th of September. But if you want to proceed, maybe we'll give you options of how you can proceed later on. But the training account will close on 5th of September.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Next, we can go to Outer Bweya. Bweya, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, wanted to ask that if you have downloaded already the ArcGIS Pro in your device, will you be required to download another version using the given link on the e-learning platform?
Okay, thank you for asking. Where it's not a must. You don't have to download and install it again if you have it. So if you have it, just make sure that you log in using the credentials provided, because we don't know if you have the extensions that will be required for the practical sessions. So you don't need to install. But then when you are logging in, make sure that you use the credentials provided so that you use our accounts, which also have the credits, the required credits for the spatial analysis.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Next, we go to Ibrahim Ambale. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Eric, and also thanks to all the presenters today. The session has been very, very informative. Mine is just 2 concerns. One is that there's a participant also on this call. I think his name is Anthony, and he said that he's based somewhere in Zimbabwe. He was saying that most of the government do not enforce policies. So maybe just a question to RCOE is that after this course and all that that we've been doing for all the years, and maybe the government, for example, here in Kenya, does not you are recommending. Do you have any maybe advocacy measures maybe towards outside Kenya to make sure that at least they can push the government to work on? And then the other concern is that Mr. Julius has been sharing on how to download the ArcGIS Pro, but just to mention that it can only be downloaded through the e-learning platform, because if for example you now go and use the other way that he was showing us, for me my tab does not show the settings and all those apps and where you can download it, and I want to believe this is the same for all other participants. Thank you, Eric, and back to you.
Thank you, Ibrahim. I will start with the second question. I'll start with the second question on downloading ArcGIS Pro. I want to believe if you have an ArcGIS online account, which has the license for ArcGIS Pro, whether you are a participant or you are using even your organization account, you should be able to download the ArcGIS Pro installer. You can try it. We don't have time, but maybe you can pick it in other platforms. You can share your screen, then we can guide you on how to get the ArcGIS Pro installer. But anyway, if you can't get it via the ArcGIS online account, then you can just download from the e-learning platform. That is fine. Then I missed a second of your first question. But we are talking about enforcing policies, and if we have advocacy initiatives in the region, is that the question?
Yes. For example, if RCO or like for example, if maybe you have found something going on in some of the protected and conserved areas in Kenya, and then maybe the government that is currently maybe, for example, the government that is currently in Kenya right now refuses maybe to adhere to those policies, what are some of the advocacy measures that you guys have that you can reach out to maybe international other countries to make sure that at least they can now try and talk to the Kenyan government to try and enforce, because this is something that also I think Anthony from Zimbabwe mentioned about. And then regarding the ArcGIS Pro, I downloaded it long time ago. Everything is working on my end. I was just recommending to other participants that they can utilize the e-learning if they are not able to use the other way. So for me, I'm good, I'm set, everything is working on my end. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Ibrahim. And thank you for advising other participants. So one of the roles of the RCO is to build a capacity of the conservationists like you to continue the work of conservation. So our role is to ensure that you are capacitated enough for you to go and conserve your areas. If advocacy is part of conservation. So we may not go directly to the ground and do advocacy, but you can do it on our behalf. And that is why we are here. So for us, what we are doing is that our role is to build a capacity to provide the information that is required that can be used by other actors in their advocacy work. I think, does that answer you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you, Eric. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We can have the 3 questions, then we close. Erastus, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay, if Erastus is not available, we go to Abdikadir Ali. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, thank you, Eric, for the awesome presentation. For me, I have an issue about the module 1, assignment 1, about the remote sensing. So I sent an email to the ICT team on 18th of August, but they have answered my email today, like after 9 days, and I still have the assignment pending, though I had the opportunity of just discussing with a friend within the trainees, and then I was able to log in. I submitted the assignment, but it's still showing that it has not been graded. And maybe due to the issue of the assignment not being graded, I cannot proceed forward. So my question is, when are you going to grade it so that I'll be having the opportunity for me to progress and move forward?
Thank you, Abdikadir. About the assignment, for sure, we are in the process of grading. We have a large number of participants. We have more than 5,000 submissions, which we are grading. We have allowed participants to proceed with the other modules as we grade assignments. So the grading will not stop you from proceeding to other modules, but when you finish, before you finish your course, you will get your grade. Have you been answered? Okay, thank you. Let us go to Kandala Stephen. That is the last question you are taking today. Kandala, unmute yourself and ask the question.
Well, how are you, Eric?
Fine, thank you.
I'm Steven from Zambia. I think I just have 2 questions. On the ArcGIS Pro, I managed to log in the first time, but this time it is asking me for my credentials. So I tried to log in, but I'm unable to log in. But using the same credentials, I'm able to log in to ArcGIS online. So I don't know if but I had managed to log in before on the ArcGIS Pro. I downloaded and I managed to log in. So I don't know, because it brings a message to say ArcGIS Pro is only available from 17 hours GMT. So I don't know if it's the time difference since I'm in CAT, Central African time. Yes, and then the last question is for me, I've managed to hand in both assignments, but I've just noticed today there's a dashboard assignment for module 2. So I don't know if I missed an online class because I do not even know what the dashboard assignment is about in particular. So I don't know, maybe there's a live session I missed, then you can advise me so that I can rewatch it and be able to do the assignment. Because I'm unable to proceed to module 3.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Stephen. The first question on ArcGIS Pro credentials. The same credentials that you're using for ArcGIS Online should work in ArcGIS Pro. If by any chance it's not working, just share your email. We will check whether you have the license for ArcGIS Pro. Then for the assignment, dashboard assignment, yes, we had a live session. Please go to module 2. We have a section for live sessions. There's a live session for dashboards. Please go and rewatch the session, and then you'll be able to finish the assignment.
Okay, thank you. So where do I send my email address? In the chat here? Or
even now,
I email directly?
You can email it.
Okay.
Emailing it is better.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. That marks the end of this session. Yes, and make sure that you install ArcGIS Pro because tomorrow we will not go through the session of installation again. We will start on the exercise of the day. So make sure you install ArcGIS Pro as we wait for tomorrow. Otherwise, thank you so much for attending. We appreciate your time here. See you tomorrow. Thank you.